the silence of 1,000 species. The Galactic Council chamber had been designed to inspire humility. It floated within the hollowed interior of a dead moon, its vast inner sphere layered with rings of seeding that rose like terraces toward a ceiling of artificial stars. Gravity fields overlapped and shifted to accommodate species of wildly different mass and physiology. Atmospheres blended in careful gradients. Light itself was filtered and refracted to avoid offending ancient eyes that had evolved beneath dying suns. For 10,000 cycles, this chamber had been the center of galactic order, and never, not once, had it fallen truly silent. Until humanity spoke. The session had begun as most did. Procedure, proclamations, the slow grinding of power disguised as diplomacy. Representatives of elder empires spoke in sonorous tones, their voices translated instantly into the neural, chemical, or acoustic languages of the gathered species. Borders were adjusted, trade corridors reassigned. A minor civilization was censured for unauthorized stellar engineering. Then the topic shifted. Regarding Sol 3, intoned the chair being, an immense crystalline entity whose kind had predated hyperspace itself. The matter of continued militarization. Across the chamber, attention subtly turned toward a single, unassuming delegation platform. Humans. They looked almost laughably small on the grand scale of the council. Soft-bodied bipeds wrapped in dark, minimalist attire. No natural armor. No bioluminescence. No visible weapons. Their species had joined the council barely 40 standard years ago, admitted more out of curiosity than respect. A deathworld species, yes, but a young one. Reckless. Loud. Predictable. The chair being continued. Multiple member states have raised concerns. Fleet expansion beyond defensive necessity. Autonomous weapon research. Artificial intelligence integration exceeding council safety accords. A ripple of agreement passed through the tiers. Some species radiated color. Others emitted harmonic pulses of approval. The conclusion was inevitable. Therefore, the chair being said, the council proposes mandatory disarmament thresholds and external oversight of human military development. Compliance will be enforced. It was not a threat. It did not need to be. This was how the galaxy worked. The old guided the young. The strong constrained the dangerous. Order was preserved. The human delegation conferred briefly. No visible panic. No protest. Then the central human representative rose. They were unremarkable by council standards. Average height for their species, hair neatly kept, posture relaxed but precise. Their eyes, however, were alert in a way several elder species found faintly unsettling. Permission to speak, the human said. A pause. Then assent was granted. The human stepped forward, hands clasped loosely behind their back. Their voice, when it came, was calm, almost conversational. We understand your concerns, they began, and we acknowledge the data you've presented. Several council members relaxed. This was the expected opening, concession before compliance. But then the human continued. What you have observed, they said, what you believe to be our military capability was only the beginning. The words were simple. The translation matrices confirmed accuracy, and the chamber went silent. Not procedural silence. Not the polite pause of deliberation. True silence. Sound-dampening fields registered a sudden drop to 0. Bioluminescent species dimmed instinctively. Psionic entities recoiled as if a pressure wave had passed through their minds. Even the chair being's crystalline facets stilled, refracting no light at all. Several elder races felt it at once. A deep, ancestral warning, the kind that had once signaled the approach of extinction-level predators. The humans stood unmoving, letting the words settle. A representative of the Khaled ascendancy broke the silence at last, their voice sharp with disbelief. Clarify. Beginning of what? The human tilted their head slightly, as if considering how much to say. Of our response, they replied. Murmurs erupted, controlled, but unmistakable. Data feeds spiked as analysts across the chamber ran projections, simulations, threat models. None aligned with the human's confidence. The chair being spoke again, more slowly now. Humanity's fleets have been cataloged. Your industrial output measured. You lack the capacity for escalation beyond. Beyond what you can see, the human finished gently. That was when the unease deepened into something colder. Several intelligence-focused species reviewed old records, human exploration patterns, sensor anomalies dismissed as errors, regions of space humanity had mapped but never settled. Patterns emerged that had not been visible before. Redundancy, depth, absence where presence should have been. You misunderstand us, the human continued. We did not build our defenses in reaction to the galaxy. We built them because of our history. Images flickered briefly across the shared display. Storms, wars, collapsing cities, burning skies. A world that fought itself long before it ever looked to the stars. We come from a planet that never forgave weakness, the human said. So we learned not to have any. The chair being attempted to reassert control. Is this a declaration of defiance? The human met the ancient entity's gaze. No, they said. It's a statement of fact. They straightened, voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. You asked us to disarm, the human said. But what you've seen, what you fear, that was restraint. Testing. Introduction. A pause. Then quietly. That was only the beginning. The silence returned, heavier than before. And for the first time in its long existence, the Galactic Council understood that it had not just misjudged a species. It had spoken to one far too late. The species from the deathworld. The Galactic Council did not adjourn after humanity's declaration. It couldn't. The chamber remained active, its systems flooded with data requests, threat assessments, and emergency subcommittees forming and dissolving in seconds. Across the layered tiers, representatives whispered through pheromones, subsonic vibrations, and encrypted thought bursts. What united them was not outrage, but uncertainty. Humanity had disrupted a balance older than their species by orders of magnitude. Within sealed analytical nodes, elder civilizations began doing something rare. They re-examined history. The first reports came from xenobiologists. Soul, 3 classification, deathworld, read the cold summary. Gravity variance, extreme. Climate volatility, severe. Seismic instability, persistent. Apex predators, present on all continental landmasses. This alone was not unique. The galaxy had cataloged hundreds of death worlds. What followed, however, was dominant species evolved without biological failsafes. No exoskeleton, no redundant organs, limited natural weapons. Several analysts paused. How did they survive? A Sorrent hive mind asked across a secure channel. The answer unfolded in brutal clarity. Humans survived through adaptation at a pace that bordered on the unnatural. Their planet punished hesitation. Storms erased cities. Pathogens rewrote ecosystems. Their own kind competed violently for resources long before reaching industrial maturity. Where most species stabilized before developing technology, humans had weaponized instability itself. A historian from a Velm archivum transmitted a forbidden comparative model, one normally reserved for studying extinct civilizations. Humanity's evolutionary curve matched them all. The conquerors, the collapsers, the ones who burned bright and vanished. Except humanity hadn't vanished. Military analysts took over next. The fleets the Council had cataloged, human defense groups, expeditionary forces, border patrols, were reclassified within minutes. Observed formations rely on modular command, one analyst reported. Decentralized decision authority. Loss of a flagship does not degrade combat effectiveness. That was unusual. Weapon systems favor redundancy over efficiency. Ammunition-based kinetics coexisting with energy platforms. Physical armor layered beneath deflector shielding. Outdated, some had once said. Now the pattern sharpened. They don't design to win wars quickly, the analyst continued. They design to keep fighting after systems fail. A murmur of discomfort rippled through the hidden channels. Then came the discovery that fractured what little confidence remained. Human industrial output, long believed modest, had been misinterpreted. Automated shipyards concealed within asteroid clusters. Mobile fabrication fleets that never anchored long enough to be observed. Entire logistics chains designed to appear inefficient unless viewed as components of a larger, invisible structure. Humanity had not built a military. They had built an ecosystem. An elder tactician from the Threx Dominion summarized it best. They do not prepare for enemies. They prepare for extinction. As the Council struggled to process this, a new stream of data arrived, unauthorized deep space detections. Objects emerging from void sectors humanity had quietly surveyed decades ago. Not hyperspace signatures. Something else. Mass shadows without corresponding energy bloom. Fleets moving with deliberate slowness, as if unconcerned with being seen or challenged. A junior observer panicked. These signatures don't match any registered human ship class. A reply came from an ancient intelligence that had watched galaxies rise and fall. They were never meant to. Meanwhile, the human delegation waited. They did not intervene. They did not clarify. They simply observed as the galaxy performed, in hours, the analysis it should have completed in decades. At last, the chair being requested humanity's presence within a restricted channel. You concealed capabilities, it stated. The human representative did not deny it. We disclosed what was necessary for membership, they replied. Nothing more. This violates trust. The human's expression hardened, not in anger, but in something colder. Trust, they said, is what species with peaceful histories can afford. A projection appeared, human archival footage from their pre-FTL era. Wars fought with primitive weapons. Cities reduced to ash. Entire populations displaced. We come from a world that assumed tomorrow would be worse than today, the human continued. So we planned accordingly. A counselor from a pacifist civilization asked the question many feared to voice. Against whom? The human answered without hesitation. Everyone. The word struck like a kinetic impact. Not because we sought dominance, the human clarified, but because survival on our world demanded readiness against any threat, natural or otherwise. Silence followed, but this time it was thoughtful. The chair being processed this for several long seconds. And these forces now emerging. Are they defensive? The human met the ancient entity's gaze again. They are observational, they said. The first wave. A chill passed through the council. You spoke of beginnings, the chair being said carefully. How many phases follow? The human paused, not for uncertainty, for restraint. Enough, they said, that no one ever again mistakes our patience for weakness. Outside the chamber, far beyond council censors, something vast shifted its course, drawn forward not by hostility, but by humanity's oldest instinct. To be ready, always. And the galaxy, at last, began to understand that the species from the death world had never truly joined them for peace. They had joined to make sure they would never be surprised. The first wave was mercy. The first shots of the war did not come from humanity. They came from fear. The Carthel Imperium had ruled its spiral arm for 3,000 years. Its fleets were vast, its warriors bred for combat, its doctrine perfected through countless subjugations. When humanity's hidden movements were detected along nearby void corridors, the Imperium strategists reached a unanimous conclusion. Strike first. Strike hard. Erase the unknown before it matures. From the Council's perspective, it was an understandable decision. From humanity's, it was a test case. The Carthel Armada entered the Alpheon system with overwhelming force, warships blotting out starlight, weapon arrays charged, honor banners blazing across subspace channels. Their opening salvo targeted human listening stations and orbital infrastructure. Worlds below prepared for planetary siege. And then the first wave arrived. There was no dramatic hyperspace rupture, no thunderous emergence. Human ships simply appeared, already in position. Dozens at first, then hundreds. They were smaller than expected, angular, scarred. Not the sleek, polished vessels the Imperium had anticipated, but brutal constructs layered in armor and bristling with mismatched weaponry. Carthel commanders laughed, until their sensors failed. Not jammed, not destroyed, rewritten. Human electronic warfare swept the system like a silent tide, severing fleet coordination, isolating ships from one another. Command hierarchies collapsed in seconds. Admirals screamed orders into voids that no longer answered. Then the kinetics began. Human projectiles tore through shields tuned to absorb energy, punching precise holes through engines, weapon mounts, and command decks. Not a single Carthel capital ship was destroyed outright. They were disarmed. Boarding actions followed. Fast, surgical, terrifyingly efficient. Human marines moved through enemy hulls with methodical precision, disabling reactors, securing bridge crews, and withdrawing without looting, without taunting. Within 43 minutes, the Imperium's armada was dead in space. Still intact, still alive. Across the galaxy, observers struggled to reconcile what they were seeing. They could have annihilated them, a council analyst whispered. Yes, replied an elder tactician, but they didn't. On Carthel Prime, planetary defenses powered up in desperation. In response, the first wave repositioned, forming a vast, silent perimeter around the system. Every escape vector was covered. Every orbital platform shadowed. No shots were fired. A message was broadcast instead, translated into every known galactic language. This engagement is concluded. Your military capability has been neutralized. No civilian targets were harmed. This was mercy. The transmission repeated once, then ceased. Panic rippled through the council chamber as real-time reports flooded in. The Carthel Imperium, one of the galaxy's most feared powers, had been rendered defenseless without losing a single planet. A counselor demanded humanity explain itself. The human representative appeared once more, their demeanor unchanged. You defeated a superior force without escalation, the chair being said. Why? The human answered simply. Because escalation wasn't the objective. Then what was? Learning, the human replied. Data projections appeared across the chamber. Battle timelines, adaptive curves, probability shifts. Every second of combat had fed humanity's war nets. Enemy responses cataloged. Tactical doctrines dissected. Cultural assumptions mapped. The first wave, it became clear, was not humanity's spear. It was their sensor. These ships, the human continued, are designed to operate under disadvantage. Limited autonomy. Restricted firepower. They test reaction speeds, command rigidity, and strategic imagination. A stunned silence followed. You sent an intentionally limited force, a counselor said, horrified. Yes. And if they had been destroyed? The human met their gaze. Then we would have learned something else. The implication settled heavily over the chamber. The chair being spoke at last. An Imperium? They will recover, the human said. Eventually, their people will live. Their culture will persist. A pause. They will also remember. As if summoned by the thought, a new signal entered council awareness. A Carthel emergency broadcast stripped of its former arrogance. They requested mediation. They requested mercy. They requested understanding. Across the galaxy, military planners began revising centuries-old assumptions. Victory no longer meant destruction. Power no longer meant domination. Humanity had rewritten the language of war. The human representative delivered one final clarification before ending the session. You called this a conflict, they said. It wasn't. The council waited. It was an introduction, outside known space, far beyond the reach of frightened empires. Larger human formations continued to move, unobserved, unannounced. The first wave had spoken clearly, and the galaxy, shaken but still alive, began to grasp the most terrifying truth of all. If this was mercy, then the later waves would not be. That was only the beginning. The Galactic Council reconvened in silence. Not the stunned quiet that had followed humanity's declaration. Not the analytical hush of a species recalculating probabilities. This silence was deliberate. Across the chamber, Representatives sat motionless, their cultures unified by a single, unspoken understanding. The rules that had governed the galaxy for millennia no longer applied. The chair being broke the stillness. Humanity has demonstrated capability beyond projection. The council now requests full disclosure. The human representatives stood. No, they said. A ripple of unease spread, but no outrage followed. Power had shifted, and everyone present knew it. We will offer clarity instead, the human continued. Because what comes next requires consent or consequences. A gesture, and the chamber's central projection ignited. 7 concentric symbols appeared, each rotating at a different speed. The first wave, the human said, you have witnessed. Observation, adaptation, mercy. The symbol dimmed. The second wave nullifies hostile fleets entirely, not by battle, but by making war unsustainable. Trade routes flickered out on the display. Fuel depots vanished. Maintenance worlds went dark. Supply chains collapse. Fleets starve in place. The second symbol faded. The third wave targets economic structures. Currencies destabilized. Resource monopolies dissolved. Empires fall without a shot fired. Several counselors recoiled as centuries of power disintegrated in projected moments. The fourth wave, the human said calmly, is informational supremacy. AI governance. Predictive control. Opposition becomes mathematically irrelevant. The symbol pulsed once, ominously. The fifth wave, the human continued, is stellar denial. The chamber chilled as stars dimmed on the display. Entire systems were rendered unreachable, not destroyed, but isolated beyond recovery. A few ancient species recognized the technology. It had ended precursor wars. The sixth wave, the humans said, voice steady, is reality warfare. Physics weaponized. Causality adjusted. Survival becomes optional. Several psionic entities collapsed, overwhelmed by implications alone. The final symbol remained, unlabeled, unmoving. The seventh, the chair being asked softly. The human did not elaborate. We do not name it, they said, because it is never used to rule, only to end. The projection vanished. You see, the human continued, we did not prepare these waves to conquer the galaxy. We prepared them to ensure something else never could. A counselor found their courage. You intend to become our guardians? The human considered the word. No, they said. Guardians ask permission. We offer protection, with boundaries. And if the galaxy refuses, another asked. Then we withdraw, the human replied. Completely. Confusion rippled outward. You would leave us vulnerable? The humans shook their head. No, you would already be vulnerable. They turned slowly, meeting the gaze of species after species. We are not the greatest power in the universe, the humans said, but we are the one that prepares for what comes after the greatest fails. A long-forgotten memory stirred among the eldest races, whispers of things beyond the cosmic horizon. The chair being spoke with ancient gravity. Then what do you ask of us? The human's answer was immediate. Non-interference in our defenses. Mutual transparency. And one truth entered into galactic record. They paused. Humanity does not escalate first. But when escalation begins, we finish it. The declaration was not shouted. It did not need to be. The council deliberated for only moments before consensus was reached. Accords were amended. Restrictions lifted. Observers reassigned. Humanity was no longer classified as an emerging power. It was designated a strategic constant. As the session ended, the human representative lingered, gazing up at the artificial stars. A junior aide asked quietly, was it necessary to show them all 7? The human's expression softened, just slightly. No, they said, but they needed to understand that restraint is a choice. Beyond the chamber, deep within regions of space unmarked on any star chart, dormant human constructs returned to standby. For now, the galaxy exhaled, believing peace had been preserved. Humanity knew better. Peace was never permanent. It was maintained, and as they had warned from the very beginning, what the galaxy had seen so far was only the beginning.